What's up, guys? So today is going to be a review for the Sony A9 camera. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Omir. I'm a photographer located in Las Vegas. I also shoot weddings, portraits, things like that. But the main thing I focus on right now is weddings. So I purchased the A9 because I was interested in all the ability of the A9, you know, the 20 frames a second, all the hype that was built up around it. A lot of talk, I watched a lot of reviews, but I wanted to try it out for myself. And given that I'm a wedding photographer, I felt that even though it was geared more towards sports photographers, I felt that it had a place for weddings. So this video is going to be more angled towards the wedding photographer and how it can benefit you and how it benefited me on a couple weddings that I shot with the camera. So autofocus is amazing. And specifically how, like on my DSLR, all the autofocusing points are centered around the center of the screen. Well, with the A9, they go all the way out to the edges of the screen completely. Basically, the entire sensor is able to do the autofocus, and with 693 autofocusing points, I mean, it covers the entire length of the screen. And one of the funnest things I had doing when I was shooting was being able to hold the camera, have my subject off to the left or to the right, the far end of the screen, and just watch that eye focus drift right up there, boom, and lock on, or watch the phase detection of the face pick up on either corner or down at the bottom of the screen. It's amazing, I love it. I can't really explain it, there's nothing like it, but definitely if you're in the market for the A9 or looking for something that has something like that, the A9 does it, and it beats any other camera I've ever used, hands down, by Canon for sure. Yeah, one of the things that I noticed with the A9 is being able to use the entire back screen to shoot. And I know everybody's watched Jason Lanier before, how he holds the camera out like right here and he's, you know, busting out the shots. And you actually tend to do that a lot more with the Sony A9. I don't know why with Canon, with a DSLR, you try to do it and it doesn't feel right, or it doesn't usually look right. And I think because of the way the Sony is set up, with the electronic shutter and everything, and how you're just pressing it and you can look and the screen never blacks out while you're shooting. It's hard to explain, but it's a surreal experience. It almost feels like you're doing a video or something. Just more think of it like that, where you're just looking at the screen, you're hitting the button. It's really just shooting the entire time. It's taking pictures, but you almost feel like you're doing like a videographer kind of style by looking at the back screen. So it really changes the way you look at everything. I did it a lot more. I didn't actually use the EEF up to the eye as much as I actually used the actual screen. But definitely it was a welcomed experience, and it was something I appreciated off the Sony A9 for sure. One of the things I love about the A9 is the customization of buttons. And I know with I guess a bunch of Sony cameras you can customize the buttons, but coming from Canon, you have minimal customization that you can do. But the A9, I mean, literally, damn, I think just about every button can be customized to whatever you want. So I mean, I was putting the ISO where I wanted, I was putting white balance where I wanted, focusing modes, put that as a button. There's so many different things. eye autofocus, that's the only thing I noticed that was a little bit of a pain, but I'll get back to that. But yeah, you can program the eye autofocus to just press a button, boom, it locks in. And the customization of buttons is a big deal. And coming from Canon, like I said, where you don't really have that, it was nice to have a camera that you could basically just tell it to do whatever you wanted. So definitely that was a big plus. 20 frames a second. So when I was doing, when I was shooting the wedding, the reason why I got it is because I wanted it for the first kiss. I had an issue a couple months back where I was doing the first kiss, and I only got about 3 good images of the first kiss. So I was really irritated by that. I felt that I should have had more. Partially it was my fault, and partially it was the camera's fault, because the camera didn't log on properly. So I was really irritated by that. But the Sony A9 with the 20 frames a second was pretty remarkable. It gets to the point when you're shooting that you don't even realize that you're taking 20 freaking frames per second. It doesn't hit you, it doesn't register until your buffer fills up. And then you're like, oh damn, I was shooting that much. But in general, it's pretty remarkable, the 20 frames. I got the first kiss, I think I had about 18 usable images from the first kiss. And you know, walking up and things like that, and there was plenty. I had, you know, too many images, if anything, but it's better to have more than not enough. Man, that's always something you would definitely want to remember when you're out there shooting. But yeah, man, 20 frames per second is just what it is. It's amazing. The viewfinder, electronic viewfinders, this was my first experience using one, and I loved it. It pretty much changes the way you shoot. Chimping goes away almost completely. I found myself chimping just because I just wanted to make sure, you know, I'm so used to chimping that when you're shooting, it's a natural reflection, a natural reflex that you just want to go back and look at the image. But honest to God, I mean, you're nailing it in the eye focus right there. I mean, in the viewfinder. The viewfinder is amazing. I mean, just seeing everything that's in there, the way it looks, adjusting all of your settings, and then knowing that the camera is gonna be spot on is amazing. Dynamic range. I know there's been some back and forth about the dynamic range of the A9. Some people tell me the A7R2 is better. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I don't use it. But I do know from my experience that the A9 dynamic range is pretty amazing. Now, when I speak about dynamic range, I know some people are talking about taking a picture that's basically underexposed by like 4 stops and then bringing it back up, you know, 3 or 4 stops over. But for me, what I'm talking about is the shadows in the like trees and things like that. Just small, so I expose normally how I normally would. And then when I adjust, I usually tend to shoot more vibrant, more brighter pictures. And then I'll bring up the shadows and everything. But when I do that, I look for the details in trees and things like that, or just whatever, small things, small details. And I noticed the colors are represented and retained very well on the A9. And with my 5D Mark IV, they're not as well maintained when you bring them up. Subtle. It's a subtle thing, but it's something I definitely noticed. So I'm not talking about necessarily bringing it up 4 stops, which it can do just fine, and I did that, and I'll show a demonstration of that. But just generally speaking, the A9 is amazing with dynamic range. The tilt screen. So coming from Canon 5D Mark IV, again, no tilt screen. So having the A9 with the tilt screen was phenomenal. I mean, just using it, you know, I was like doing photo shoots. I wanted to get on the ground. I love to shoot low, but it was nice just to be able to put the camera low on the ground or near the ground and to shoot up, or to put it up top on the reception and want to shoot down into the crowd and just flip the screen and not have to just spray and pray. I love being able to just, you know, look and compose and then shoot. Spraying and praying is okay, but doesn't really work for what I try to do. I really try to go for perfection more than anything else. So definitely the tilt screen is a must, and I hope that Canon will follow suit. I know they did with the 6D Mark II, but that camera to me is just for amateurs. It's not really a pro camera. So the menu screen on the A9 is pretty in depth. At first I was kind of intimidated by it. It's really detailed. There's layers on top of layers on top of layers on top of layers. So it can kind of get confusing. You can customize it the way you want it, and that's usually the way you should do it, is customize it. So that way you have everything where you need it and what you need once you figure that out. But like, for sure, I would say it's a bit overwhelming at first, and it's a bit of a learning curve to navigate around the screen or the menu system. But once you get the hang of it, I think you'll like it. And I think having the ability to just have more options is always better than not. I just wish they would update it to make it a little bit more user-friendly. The negative that I have with it is it wasn't touch interface, which was kind of a bummer. I wish it would have been a touch interface, but you know, give some, you take some. What I didn't like was the camera with the Canon lenses and the Sigma lenses using the MC11 adapter. I felt it hunted way too much. I was not comfortable using it on the wedding, which kind of sucked because that limited me to my lenses that I could use. So I ended up using the 5D with the Canon lenses, and then I would use my Sony with the Sony lenses. The MC11 was not, I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel confident in it. And when you're shooting a wedding, you really have to feel confident in your equipment, because if you start doubting your equipment, then you're gonna doubt your photos. And if you doubt your photos, you're gonna doubt everything you just did for that wedding. So When I work, I like to work fast. I like to work knowing that my gear is going to do what I need it to do. And when I put the Canon lenses, like the 70-200 on the MC11 adapter, I noticed it was. Do I see the A9 replacing my Canon 5D Mark IV and my Canon setup? I would say there's a good chance that I do switch. I'm kind of waiting on the A7R3 right now and the D800. I'm sorry, the D850. I really want to see what those two cameras kind of have in store. The D850 being the next one that's coming out, so I'm gonna check that out first. And then the A7R3 hasn't been launched yet, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully it's higher on the megapixel side and still retains all the other features that the A9 offers, as far as maybe not necessarily the 20 frames per second. I mean, I'm willing to take 9 or 10 would be just fine if I had the higher megapixels. But the lens selection with Sony is what kind of worries me, and the pricing there is a lot higher than I would want. I like being able to use Sigma lenses with my Canon camera. They work fine. I don't have any problems with them, but I noticed with the Sony, with the adapter, they didn't work as well. I believe Metabones has a new adapter coming out, so we'll have to see if the new Metabones adapter maybe works a little better. Let me know what you guys think of this video. Let me know if you guys have any questions or what you would want to see again from this video, or something I didn't cover. I'll be more than happy to answer them. I'm looking forward to working hard for you guys on this channel. I really don't put out much content, and it's because I am not sure of the content that I really want to create. So, but I did promise this particular video on the A9 when I purchased the A9, and so this is my review of it. And again, stay tuned and subscribe and like the video and share it if you can. Thanks, appreciate it.